Beatrix Potter said, "Believe there is a great power silently working all things for good. Behave yourself and never mind the rest."
That behave yourself part is so hard.
I know, but don't you think this is so appropriate?
It's cute.
It is cute. We're gonna
Beatrix
have a.
Potter.
I love the artwork. When I think of Beatrix Potter, I
Hmm.
always think of the illustrations and how cute and sweet they are.
Hmm.
Wish I
Yeah.
could do that. But all right, so this is Looking Up, a podcast for Christian women. Kathy Pollard, and with me is Carla Moore, and we're your hosts, of course. And today's going to be a little bit different. For one thing, Carla, you're still not home. You're still. Where are you? In Athens?
That's the theme of my life. Still not home. Yes, we are in
Yeah.
Athens.
Where in the world is Carla Moore? That's going to be the tagline. Yeah. So you're still in Athens. So you had to kind of jerry rig a little recording studio there in the hotel room, which I can see behind you. And so we're just going to have a conversation. You're going to kind of update us on how your trip has gone and maybe share some highlights, hopefully some lowlights too, just to keep it interesting. Huh? Huh?
Ooh, ooh.
And we're going to chat about some of the things that have happened here in Bowling Green, and that's going to be the extent of this episode, really. So
Hmm.
let's go ahead and
So we're
get
just going to
started.
talk.
We're just going to talk. We're just going to talk. So we weren't even sure we were going to be able to record it all. So I'm glad that I
Yeah.
get to see your face. It's been
Hmm.
forever. When we were talking on
Yeah.
the front end, I was going, have I talked to you since this happened?
Hmm. Well, it has been almost 3 weeks, or has it?
Yes.
No,
Not,
almost 3 weeks. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Two and a
And we
half,
didn't,
2.5 weeks.
the last one that's the one that's aired this week. I remember accidentally saying when we were doing the chit chat, I said, "Well, so what'd you do this weekend?" And we had just recorded. I don't think we even had a weekend in between. There was something that I remember. We're trying to be a little sneaky here because
Yeah.
we recorded three before we left.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad to see your face again.
Yeah, I'm glad to see yours too, and that I've seen pictures. The pictures are incredible. They look very professional. So I know
Oh,
you've
thank you.
had. You're
My
welcome.
pictures,
Well, the ones you've shared, I'm assuming you took them.
these iPhone cameras, they
Oh
just have
yeah,
good cameras.
yeah, but you got to give some user credit too. So well done. Feels like
Thanks.
I was there with you for some of it. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about your trip? Tell everybody, in case we have listeners who don't know what we're talking about. Tell
Yeah.
us where
Well,
you
we
are and
we
why.
we are on a tour. We finished the tour. This in the steps of Paul is what we call this one. So we've been in Greece and Turkey. Actually, today we were supposed to be flying right now home, but we got a notification about, I don't know, 28 hours ago that just all it said was, your flight tomorrow is canceled. And the group went home yesterday morning. Thankfully, they got out. And it turns out, we didn't know anything about it, but it turns out that there was a planned 24-hour strike of all air traffic control here in Greece. And not just air traffic control, it's municipal workers, so like trash pickup, and I'm not sure, just city
Wow.
offices.
Oh.
And I think there was some educators, and I'm not sure. It just the news report that
Mm.
I read said educators. So it's a strike, and we're here. We can't get out, but it's only 24 hours. And it was kind of cool because this morning our hotel, this you can see the sun coming in. It's 5:48 here, so it's what 9:48
Nine.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in the future. I'm in your future. I'm letting you know how the future goes. But the strike or the protest went right in front of our hotel. There's two squares, and I don't know. I couldn't tell you exactly. There's one square called Monastiraki Square. There's Syntagma Square, and there's one that John. It sounds like he's saying Ammonia Square, like ammonia. I think it's spelled with an O, ammonia. I'm not sure, but it started at one square and ended at the end of this street at another square. And of course, they're on loudspeakers and they're carrying signs. It was a protest that went on for half an hour. At first, I thought it was just going to be like 100 people marching past, but it kept coming and coming and coming. It was fascinating. It was very peaceful. It was loud because there was like groups of 100 at a time, and there'd be a guy on a loudspeaker. And of course, I don't John was getting ready for the day, and I was telling him he was in the bathroom and hair dryer and stuff, and I'm saying they're coming down the street, and he's saying, "What are they saying?" Like, I don't
Speak to
speak
me.
Greek.
That's right.
Yeah. And so he's trying to pick out what the signs say, see if he can figure out what it was. I mean, we knew it was a strike. Two different unions combined and stroke. There was a strike, but it was not, it's not like it's not anything violent. There was no, in fact, I was looking down and there's moms pushing their kids in strollers, lots
Mhm.
of gray hair, older people. And I was just watching and they're greeting each other and hugging each other. So it's just a planned protest. And
It's a
we just happened
parade.
to get caught. That is exactly what several of our people said. It's a parade. Where's the balloons?
Where's the candy?
But yeah, throw some candy at me. But they actually had at this hotel, they have, it looks like kind of corrugated tin. I'm sure it's some kind of steel that they can close over the entrance because the front of the hotel is glass. And they had
Mm.
pulled all of that across, I guess, thinking that if something did happen, if rocks were thrown, but they really weren't expecting any of that. But I think they were just prepared for it. But I think all of our kids were like, well, be safe. And some of our group that went home yesterday, they're all, I'm so sorry, y'all need to be safe. And we're safe. We actually, after that went by, we got out, we walked down to the Placa, which is the shopping district. We had lunch there. So everything was back to normal and it's all
Mhm.
good. So it's just an inconvenience because I really wanted to be in my own bed tonight and not here. But,
Yeah. And when
you
do
know,
you get to be in your own bed?
hopefully tomorrow night, but it's going to be late. So this is Wednesday. And so they had to reconfigure our flights. And I won't go into all that because we had used some miles to upgrade to a nicer seat. And when they cancel the flight, you typically lose those seats. They'll
Mhm.
give you your miles back, but I didn't want those. I wanted the seats that we picked out. And we were way separated in the plane. And like one of our seats was in the very back corner, which like against the corner at the very back by the bathrooms is like my least
Mhm.
favorite place to be. But anyway, we got it worked out. We have to fly a smaller airline to Paris and then Paris to Atlanta to Austin and hopefully home like at 10:45 tomorrow night. The good thing is we can go straight to bed. Lord willing, as I prayed before we started. I said unremarkable flights, but I mean I don't want anything. I always pray for things to just not happen. Like you can have a safe
Mhm.
flight and a
Mhm.
scary flight at the same time. I don't like that. I just want it just a normal,
That's right.
non-bumpy, smooth, easy flight.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's where we are. And the trip, it was a great trip. We had a great group. There was 48 of us. Lots of preachers and I mean we always have good groups. We always have good people. They're the best people in the world, but we just we had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, some tears, but not any kind of bad tears, just the leaning on one another. There was a gentleman who 4 days before the trip found out that he had cancer. And
Oh.
so we were all able to, just surround them and
Mhm.
love on him and his wife. And I think that was on like the second day that he let us know. So I think it was a good thing for him to be able to talk to us about that. We went to, I'll just quickly go over it. We went to Corinth before the group got here. John and I came a little bit early. Robin and Lance Riddick also came a day early and they drove with us down to Corinth because John wanted to climb the Acro Corinth, but I don't know if I've mentioned that he's had a bum knee. Did I tell you about that?
You told
He
me. I
has
don't know
a
if you told everybody else.
well, he has a meniscus tear, but it's an arthritic meniscus tear, so it's not something that they usually will repair surgically. So he's been having to do physical therapy, and he couldn't really climb. His knee was really bothering him at that part of the trip, and so we went up. You can drive halfway up, and then you can climb the rest of the way. And we didn't go too far, but we did get high enough to get a great view, and that was really cool. And we got to just kind of climb around the remains, the archaeological site of Corinth. The group came the next day, and we did kind of a walking tour of Athens. We went up to the Pnyx, And I don't think that have you been there? Have you been to the Pnyx? Have you been to Athens?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so it's across from the Acropolis, but we had never been there until earlier this past year, and that they call it the birthplace birthplace of democracy. That's kind of where political assemblies met, and this is 500 years before Christ, so um, it's a really neat place. The group came. We went to Athens. I think I just said that. Then we got on the ship on Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, we were docked in Thessaloniki, so we went to Philippi. On Sunday, we had worship on the ship. Joe Wells preached. He did an amazing job, and Jeff Archie led singing. We were in Thessaloniki part of Sunday. On Monday, we went to Ephesus. We had the same guide that we had last year that talked about vehicles and villages, and he couldn't. If you have a th word, it's just a t sound for him. So I'll just leave that with you. You can figure out some of those words that he probably said that. And I do really just turn into a 4-year-old. I can't help it. When he says those words, I giggle. Tuesday we were at sea, and it was very rocky and rolly. And I know for some people who don't like boats would not have liked that day. But I John tends to be very prone to motion sickness, and he didn't have any problem with it. I figured out it didn't make me sick, but I didn't like it. I think just the thought of, you know, the you're out in the middle of this ocean and you're being pushed around by the waves is just kind of an unsettling feeling. But it didn't make me sick. So Tuesday at sea, Wednesday we went to Cyprus. Um, you and I were there a year and a half ago, and we went to that Tomb of the Kings, if you remember that. That was the day, and I posted a picture on my personal page last week that we had the fish meal with did you
Eyeballs.
see it? The
Yes.
eyeballs. On those shrimp, I did not realize those were the eyeballs until I looked down at my plate and realized those are eyeballs staring at me. And the fish, it was with the teeth. You know, my mom, she always taught me to not make fun of other people's food because, everybody has different tastes. And I really wasn't making fun of it at all. It was just unsettling to have eyes looking at me from my plate. That's just an unusual thing. But here was the menu. I'll read you the menu. We had salad that had amazing feta cheese in it. I mean, you can imagine
Mhm.
the cheeses over here in Greece and just in this area. The feta cheese is amazing. But there was prawns, which we call shrimp, white bait, sole fillet, tempura, which is that fish. It's a sea
Okay.
bream. But then they brought some potatoes, and the potatoes, the bread, the salad was really, really good. But I'm not much of a seafood person, so that was a little different for me. Anyway, Thursday we were at sea. Friday we went to Rhodes. Saturday we went to Crete, and that was pretty amazing. You and I stayed on the ship last
Mhm.
time we were there, and we recorded podcast when John and Neil went into the city. But we drove over. I think we docked at a different place when you and I were there. But we drove from one side of the island over the mountains, and I didn't realize that there were mountains there. I just didn't remember that. Didn't remember seeing that. But we went to Fair Havens that Paul stops in Fair Havens. Then we went to
Mhm.
Corinth again on Sunday with the group. The ship was docked in Athens, so we were in Corinth, and we worshipped with the congregation, the Glyphata Church of Christ. It's in Athens. Dino Russo's the preacher. It was full. I haven't told you this. There was a group from Harding there. There was some people that were actually on the ship with us that we had never encountered that were at
Wow.
worship there. Kimberly, I think she goes by Kim. Kim and Terry Edwards' son actually got up and spoke. I think
Huh.
his name was Jonathan. I only know Brandon, but their son Jonathan was there. And the sermon, I feel like I'm rambling. I'll stop rambling in a minute. But the sermon that Dino preached was on women in the Bible. And he asked Jonathan and he asked John and Ibrahim. You remember meeting him?
Mhm.
I think you met him. He asked them each to speak about their mothers. And so this man, Jonathan, gets up, and I didn't know who he was, but he started talking about living in Florence and being brought up living in, all over the world, and just several different things that he was saying was making me think, I probably know his family. And then he said, my mom's name is Kim, and it clicked that that's who he was. So
How about
it was
that?
fun to tell her about that. Yeah. And then Monday we got off the boat, and we did a walking tour of Athens again. We went to the places that we hadn't done the first time. We went to the Acropolis, freezing, freezing cold.
Mm.
Did not like that. We got to do a little shopping in the Plaka. We went to the Greek Agora. You can't get on Mars Hill right now. There's construction around it. They're building a gift shop below it. Can you imagine?
What?
Yeah. And then the group left yesterday morning, and here we are on Wednesday. But we had some amazing pizza on Monday night it was like a wood fired oven, and they cut it with scissors.
Mhm.
That's an idea for you, because we asked why scissors, and she said, the crust is delicate. We don't want to ruin it when you run a knife over it. So you cut it with
Mm.
scissors and it stays intact. So anyway, that's a very long explanation of where I've been for the last
I
two
feel
and a
like,
half
I mean,
weeks.
I feel like since it was 2.5 weeks worth, you condensed it pretty well.
Good. Because sometimes when I listen to the podcast and I think, Carla, be quiet, you're talking too much. So I'm going to tell myself,
No.
be quiet. Your turn. What have you been doing?
Well, nothing near so exciting for sure. You were at sea and we were at storm, so put us together,
Oh, hmm yeah. I'm glad your storm was not at sea.
Yes, yeah. No, we were all caught up in that whole storm that came through a
Yeah.
gigantic portion of the United States.
Hmm.
So it was really something. It just we knew it was coming because it was forecasted, and I think the hardest part about it was just a days long event. It
Hmm.
wasn't like, sometimes we'll have severe storms or a tornado warning or something like that, batten down the batch that is it batches or hatches?
Hatches. Batten down the
Batten down
hatches.
the hatches because the
You could
wind is
hatten down the
coming.
batches.
And, for a day, this was starting Wednesday and ending sometime Sunday. Get ready. And
Mm,
it was a doozy. It really was. And for us personally, there's flooding all around us. Our neighbors still can't, I mean, their driveway is completely submerged. They're
mm.
having to walk through our property just to get out. Their vehicles are parked at the very
Oh,
end of their drive. And when that happened last time, because we just went through this something similar a couple months ago. When that happened last time, they had their vehicles parked in the driveway, and then there was the low part of their driveway is in water. Well, now their vehicles are just barely fitting at the edge of their long driveway because the water is
oh
so
wow.
high. But we've got rivers that have gone over their banks, creeks that have gone over their banks, subdivisions that you can't get out of. I was telling you on the front end that people are canoeing and kayaking, and even one of our
Yeah.
members, a young couple with a brand new baby, stuck their baby in a car seat and paddle boated out of their
Wow.
neighborhood to get to church on Sunday. So that's where
Dedication.
we are. Yeah. And so because our basement has issues, it rains steadily that whole time. And so we get these little breaks, where it would stop for a few minutes and then it would start again. And every time it started back up, the water level was coming up in our basement. So our past several days, especially Gary and Chelsea, mainly Gary and Chelsea,
Hmm.
really down there running the transfer pump. And Neil went and bought an oversized shop vac this time.
Yeah.
So two shop vacs going, the transfer pump going, a ginormous industrial sized fan going just to try and dry things up,
Hmm.
two dehumidifiers.
Man.
Lori Debris reached out to us and said, we've got another big dehumidifier if you want to run that, because we're trying to keep mold at bay. And so all that stuff sounds like an airport in my basement just because there's so
Hmm.
much stuff going on. And
Engines.
yes, yes. And by Saturday, we were just all beat. We were just all exhausted. We're always listening for the warnings on our phones for the tornadoes and taking shelter in the basement. Neil and I spent a night on the couch in the basement one night. And I think by the third night in, we knew tornadoes were coming, and we were like, we're just going to bed. If
Yeah.
something happens, it was our time to go. We're just tired. And when it was supposed to, originally it said by Sunday AM it'd be over, but it wasn't. It rained all day Sunday, more thunderstorms. And I've probably talked about this on here before, but my little dog Ollie does not do well with thunder.
Mm-hmm.
He shakes and pants, and so he did a lot of that. And
Oh,
at
poor baby.
night, when that happens, he crawls up on my pillow and literally sits on my head. Like he just cannot get close enough.
Mm-hmm.
So then he's
Yeah.
panting in my face, and I'm going, ah. So it wasn't great. It just it wasn't a very fun
Yeah.
few days. And I felt so bad because Gary and Chelsea are living in our basement, and
Mm-hmm.
they did the bulk of the work and trying to keep the water out, and they had such good attitude about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that we've got what we need to keep track of it. And but I just felt bad for them. And then when I started feeling whiny, I'd jump in the shower and I'd be like, why is the weather so horrible? Why do we keep pumping water? I start feeling whiny, and I just thought, so many people would trade places with us in a heartbeat
Mm-hmm.
because of like what happened in Selmer, Tennessee. And we've
Yeah.
seen pictures of the neighborhoods that the water is halfway up their houses, even in our
Mm-hmm.
area. And we don't have that. We just, all it is, I think it's just the water table being so saturated that it kind of leaks into our basement floor. Um, so we don't have anything like that, and we definitely didn't experience loss of life or even property damage beyond some, you know, baseboard damage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about the people in Tennessee. I told you Ken Young had posted something about, we're just waiting for the flies and locusts because they
Yeah.
had the storms and flooding and tornadoes and then an
Mm-hmm.
earthquake on top of
Yeah.
it. So,
Mm-hmm.
how you always get those reminders when you feel like this is not fun and I can think of better
Mm-hmm.
places to be right now. And then you get these little reminders of, count your blessings because it could be worse. And I know that's said a lot and overused, but my heart really feels it, even in my grumpiest, grumpiest moments. There's
Mm-hmm.
a part of me that still acknowledges that, man, it could be so much worse. And some people have really gone through the ringer through this series of
Yeah.
storms. So my heart goes out to them.
And we had several people on the trip with us who had children at Freed Hardeman, and they're all down in the basement
Mm-hmm.
of their dorms and stuff because of the storms going through. And they showed us pictures of Selmer, and yeah, that was. You told me it was the scariest storm that y'all had been through. Was it more because of the threat of tornadoes, or was it the flooding and not knowing what was going to happen?
I think it was, well, first of all, it was just that all of it was happening at the same time. But the night that we sheltered in the basement, our phone's alarms were going off with a tornado warning. And our basement is a walkout. And so
Hmm.
we've got windows all along the wall and the door. And so of course, I wasn't sleeping. I was just watching the storm, and I've never seen anything like it. I mean,
Mm,
it wasn't like just lightning bolts. It was the whole sky just completely, it was non-stop, and it just went on and on and on and on and on. The whole sky was just like somebody was flashing,
mm.
strobe lights or something. And it was shades of green and like
Oh,
this
that's scary.
green yellow. And sometimes it looks
Hmm.
like parts of it were on fire. And I mean, I was just watching it, and I was, equal parts awe and terror at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was just praying, and I'm like going, is it right over us, or is this what it looks like in the center of a tornado? I mean, I was just never seen anything like it. And I was praying, and in my prayer I'm actually saying, keep us safe, of course, but I'm going, wow, God, I am so scared right now.
Hmm.
I couldn't close my eyes, just like, oh.
Mm, I hate
So
that.
it was yeah, it was wicked.
I'm sorry y'all had to go through that.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
glad it wasn't worse.
I told you this on the front end, and I debated on whether or not to share because this was just the height of the emotion. You know, everybody knows that my judgment cannot be trusted because of the recent horrible decision to sell peaches in a moment of overwhelm. Well, at a very close call, again, I'm wondering, is this hormones or is this the new me? Because in the middle of all this, I said to Neil one day, I can't do this. I cannot live here. This weather is terrible. Like it depresses me. And what's with the rain and the floods and the tornado? Who we're not supposed to be in Tornado Alley. Like what's going on here?
Yeah.
Where can we move where the weather's perfect? You know?
And everyone at Cumberland Trace is right now going, no.
Yeah. So yeah, right. So anyway, I was just like, this is no, this what in the world, you know? And so by the time that was while we were drinking our coffee first thing in the morning, you know, just looking at each other like we're
Mhm.
zombies. And of course, by the time I got in the shower, reason had settled in.
Yeah.
And then I was praying and asking God for forgiveness because of everything I just said, you know,
Mhm.
of how we really came out through this in the best scenario possible. I mean, we just have issues in our basement. I don't know how that's going to get addressed, but we just do.
Yeah.
And we didn't experience really big property damage, like I said, or loss of life. In fact, we never even lost electricity, which is
Mm.
remarkable.
That's pretty
So
unbelievable.
it is, and so I'm very grateful for that. And but I was praying, and I thought, where's my pioneer spirit? I mean, I've got everything I want here, a wonderful church family with an excellent leadership.
Hmm.
All of our family is in the area. I've got my little piece of land. I've got my cow and chickens. You know, it's like I have everything I want, and I'm whining about the weather. You know, so it's like,
Yeah. But it's
where's my
scary weather.
pioneer spirit? Yeah, it is. It is.
Well,
So
I'm glad that you didn't have damage. I'm sure that apricot is traumatized though. Does she have a storm shelter?
she stays in the barn. So
Uh-huh.
she seemed okay. She didn't seem any worse for wear. She's Neil's out of town this week, and I've been out there with her every day, and she's still just fun and playful and cute and hops around in the barn like a little rabbit, you know. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you and I both had some whiny days. I mean, the trip is amazing and I'm always glad to do and we love it. But yesterday when we got the notice that the flight was canceled and by this time it's like I'm just ready to go home. I just want to go home. I want to be in my own
mhm,
bed. We
mhm.
have like a 8-day turnaround before we leave again and I need to see my mom and just lots of stuff going through my mind. And then I thought, how long were those astronauts stuck in space? And I'm whining about 24-hour delay. Come on, girl.
I know it's.
Put your
I
big girl
know
pants
it.
on.
I
It's not,
know.
and also, you know this when you're away, when you're in another culture and you're just surrounded by unfamiliarity. Even, culture shock doesn't really bother me anymore, but just that'll reveal how silly and dumb and vain. And not this isn't a vain thing. It's just dumb. I want some Mexican food. I'm tired of
You're
souvlaki, okay?
you're you're a Texas girl after all.
Yes, I need some chips and salsa. But the seriously, it's like,
That's a t-shirt right there. I need some chips and salsa.
yeah, I do. I just need some and throw in some queso for me. But we were walking back to the hotel last night and our flight arrangements are still kind of up in the air and whether or not there's room at the hotel for us to stay another night. And
Yeah.
this is literally the last clean thing that I have, except for what I'm wearing on the plane tomorrow. And just moving around people who are speaking a different language and you can't really go to a grocery store and we're thinking what can we eat for supper tonight that's not going to cost this much and we really don't going into the bread store. I told you what I had for supper last night. I got a ham and cheese sandwich but it had mayonnaise all over it that I didn't like and so I'm peeling apart what I don't want and eating half of a ham and cheese sandwich and some pastry and some Pringles. And anyway, just thinking it's that discomfort that you
Mhm.
feel when you're in a different culture and I'm not comfortable here and it's not, I don't feel at home. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if this is how I should kind of feel in this world because this world
Mhm.
is not my home. It's just that sense of not belonging and
Mhm.
not being completely comfortable. I think that's a good thing. So, all of these things, even though they're hard, they have good things that come out of them. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure what yours is yet with all the water in your basement, but maybe there's buried treasure underneath those baseboards that when they come away from the wall, you're going to find some pirate treasure or something. I don't know.
I already feel like it was that whole, things just get too comfortable sometimes.
Yeah.
And you were talking about you missing the comfort, and like I said, where's my pioneer spirit when the going gets tough? I want to tuck tail and run
Hmm.
somewhere else,
Hmm.
instead of just hunkering down and braving through it or learning some new skills or overcoming the problems. I would not have survived pioneer days, obviously. So, and my thoughts went the same direction as yours when you were talking about, just the comfort of all that kind of thought, all those things. I was thinking there's no place like home.
Hmm.
And my thoughts went in the exact same direction, that's probably how we should feel. And heaven is our home, and
Hmm.
things aren't always great here. And even in
Right.
even in times of wonderful experiences, like what you guys are doing is a wonderful experience, but it's not perfect.
Hmm.
And I've got everything I want here, but it's not perfect because we're in this world and
Hmm.
not the next. And for
Yeah.
me, in situations like yours, some of the stuff that you were talking about with the canceled flights, and in situations like mine with the storms coming, for me it's the lack of control.
Yeah.
And I know what that says about me, and I like to be able to. And when you're traveling, even though it's a wonderful experience, you kind of have to accommodate everything there, what's offered to
Hmm.
you, the food choices, the sleeping arrangements, whether or not your blow dryer is going to work. You
Yeah.
just have to kind of work with what you've got, and you have no
Hmm.
control
Yeah.
at all, basically. And that can be hard, and with the weather, you definitely have no control over it. And
Hmm.
the only one that does have control over everything is God. And it just comes back to that whole, are you just going to trust him? Are you going to fret and wring your hands and whine? Or are you just going to rest in the knowledge that God does have control? And no matter what happens, God's in his heaven and all's right with this world, as we often say. So
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's shaming sometimes, how easily I can get that overwhelmed feeling, or even that gripey, grumpy, I don't understand why this is happening. Why are tornadoes even a thing? Kind of feeling in my mind. I'm like, what? Do you hear yourself? If I wrote all this down and read it out loud to someone, I'd be so embarrassed. The thoughts going through my head right now.
Mhm.
So
Well,
I know
any.
that's what it is for me.
Mhm.
I need those reminders of you could
Mhm.
do a little spiritual maturing right now.
Yeah. And it's a good time to do that. I mean,
Hmm.
anytime we think we have control over anything, it's just an illusion
Oh yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
I think lots of times before 2020, I remember going in the grocery store and thinking, I can just go in here and I can put something in my basket and I can, here's the hamburger meat, here's the taco seasoning, here's the flour tortillas. I guess I have Mexican food on the brain. Everything's here that I need, and
Yes.
all I have to do is go home and cook it. But what about when, there's bound to be something that happens sometimes. And then COVID happened and it wasn't so
Hmm.
easy. And I think that of all the hard things that happened that year and the year following, whatever, it was good for us to see that we have it really easy and we need to be grateful for the ease with which we have some things and get over it and be flexible and learn how to roll with it. Flexibility is one of those things that we have to learn how to develop. And sometimes I think that we, especially maybe our generation and the ones below us, we're so we have it so easy, and it's not. That's just not. We don't learn anything from having it easy, so we
Mhm.
need to learn some things.
Well, another reminder for me was the gratitude. That's what was missing in all of this. And, we talk about that all the time, but talking about it and putting it into practice are two different things. And developing that mentality of being grateful for the new day and the opportunities and God's goodness, even when,
Hmm.
it was a stark reminder for me. And I think it was Friday night at dinner that we're all sitting in here. It's smack dab in the middle of everything. We were at the end of day 3 of all of this, and Gary said the prayer at dinner, and the first words out of his mouth is, "Dear Lord, we thank you for all this rain."
Hmm.
And I literally lifted my head and like looked at him with one eyeball, like, what?
What are you saying?
And and he went on to talk about, thankful for keeping us safe and thankful that we're able to stay on top of what's going on in the basement. And I'm like going, yeah, that's what he said. I mean, just,
Hmm.
and it was such a, I mean, it was so shaming. And, he didn't
Yeah.
think anything of it, but I just thought that's been missing from my heart in all of this is the ability to practice gratitude and give thanks, and it really does make all the difference mentally, but and I think that when you talk about it, we talk about it on here all the time. We talk about attitude and
Hmm.
joy and gratitude
Yeah.
and peace and the
Yeah.
difference that it makes. Yeah. And then as soon as a little storm comes along, I'm like,
What was it we
and
were
you
saying
don't
about easy
even,
life?
yeah, you don't even realize that you have forgot to do what you're supposed to do
Hmm.
until you get a little reminder like that. And then it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh man. Yeah. And
Hmm.
just went to bed that night praying so hard, trying to
Hmm.
think of all the things to be grateful for. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm 52 years old. Do you ever just think, when am I going to grow up? When am I going to grow up?
Yeah. I think you're grown up. Yeah, we had to have a little bit of attitude adjustment. We happened to be we were at the Greek Agora when the text came from Delta saying your flight is canceled. It's freezing cold, and we sat down on some of the. Did I turn myself off there?
No, I can still hear
You
you.
can still hear me.
Hmm.
Sat down on some rocks. John's trying to call Delta, and I'm, sitting there with my lip hanging out, and thinking I'm whatever. I'm just mad. But he gets on the phone, works most of it out. We'll figure it out. And he just looked at me and said, "You're here. That's all I need." And I just thought,
Oh.
and he's all I need. He's here. He's here on this earth still, and he's here with
Mhm.
me. We're fine. We're safe. We might need to air our clothes out a little bit, as Jeff Archie said, but we're fine. And so I made a little list. I mean, we do need medicine. That I think about. He says, "You're all I need." And I thought, yeah, and some amiodarone too. You need that for his heart. But I was so glad that our group left yesterday, because not only would it have been just such a major inconvenience for them, all of their plans, people picking them up, kids that were waiting on them, things like that, but hotel space. Where would everybody have gone?
Mhm.
Because I don't think they would have been able to stay here, and we would have been figuring, well, where's everybody going to go? So the hotel did have room for us and the Riddicks and the Archies. Thankfully, they gave us a discounted rate because of what happened. Um, we're safe. It's not 9 months in space like I was thinking about earlier. Wasn't it 9 months that they ended up staying
I think
in
so.
a little teeny tiny cramped
Ugh.
space?
Yeah, you would
There
really
was
hate that. Yeah.
no, I would hate that. And there's no chips and salsa. And if there is, it's reconstituted. So gross. I brought my coat. That was another thing I was thankful for, because I was thinking end of March, beginning of April, in Texas, you don't need a coat, but
Mhm.
I brought it anyway just in case. And I have needed it over and over. And then even that protest, I thought there was nothing scary about it. It was peaceful. It was just a demonstration. And I'm thinking, well, that's what people have done over the eons, is they make their voice known, and it was done peacefully. So there's there's just a lot of
Mhm.
inconvenient things. It's one stinking night, and
Mhm.
it's just an inconvenience. So I'm a little annoyed, but there's nothing that I can't still find some, make some lemons out of lemonade, as we laughed about earlier before we
Mhm.
started recording.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the fact that Neil was trying to leave over the weekend to get to a gospel meeting, and his flight was
Hmm.
delayed and then canceled, and he was already in Nashville, which, by the
Yeah.
way, driving over there in the middle of their tornado warning.
Oh.
Stayed down there for several hours. Flight was canceled altogether. Had to drive back home, in the rain and get up for an early flight. Well, he set his alarm for 4:30 and he was going to leave at 5. I woke up and looked at the clock. It was 5:13 and he was still in bed next to me. So then I'm like,
Mm.
ah! I'm like shaking him, Neil, the time. And he goes, it's okay. That flight was canceled too. So,
That happened during the night, and he found out or something. How did he
well,
know?
he had woke up at like 4 something in the morning and just checked his phone, and he had already gotten the notification
Mm.
that that flight was canceled and he was bumped to a 10 o'clock flight. So anyway, by the time he finally got to his destination, that meeting that was supposed to start Sunday morning, he didn't
Mm.
get to preach until
You
Sunday
missed it.
night. Yeah, because he missed
Yeah.
Bible class and worship and all. But um, there were still lots of good things. And we haven't talked since ladies' Bible class, right?
Right.
And that, I told you I was going to try and make it
Hmm.
similar to the round table kind of discussion. I enjoyed it so much. It was really enlightening with a lot of the different women and the things that they shared, and I just felt like after it was over, there was a little bit of a deeper connection with all of us. So I
Hmm.
think that went really well. And then you know how this is a little insignificant, but it's still good. You know how I keep talking about wanting to learn how to play pickleball?
Hmm.
Well, my sister texted me that she found out that on certain days of the week in her little community of Portland, Tennessee, they have pickleball courts open or something. I'm not really
Hmm.
sure what happened, but anyway, she said, let's do this. And so she picked a date, and I think it's next Thursday. So I think when this airs, it'll be like the Thursday of that week that we're going to go down there. We're going to go down first thing in the morning and spend a couple hours playing pickleball. So I was so excited
Hmm.
because I've never done it. I've been wanting to do it.
Hmm.
Well, then a few days ago, Hillary Hammer texted me and said, and I didn't say anything to her about my plans with my sister. Well, she texted me and said she knows somebody who gives pickleball lessons. And if I'm interested, she can make the arrangements. So on the 14th, which I think is that Monday or Tuesday,
I
whenever
have no
that is,
idea what day it
of
is.
the week this one will air, I'm meeting her and this pickleball instructor for a lesson. So literally, I've gone years of talking about pickleball and never
Hmm.
playing, and then all of a sudden, twice
Twice in
in
one
one
week.
week, I'm gonna get to play it. So I'm very excited about that. I hope I don't stink at it. I'm looking forward to
You're gonna
it.
love it. So you're gonna play against Christy next Thursday,
I
or y'all
don't.
gonna play against other people?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm excited though.
Okay. Yeah, you're gonna love it. I need pictures.
I need a cute
Well,
outfit.
that's what makes it happen.
That's
That's the
right.
good stuff.
Oh.
Well, it's been good. Everything
Mhm.
everything is still, as you, how is it you say, God is still in control. Everything is going to be okay, and minor inconveniences. Y'all have had it worse. I mean, y'all, that's scary stuff that y'all have been through. Ours is just very minor and annoying, but yours is scary. So hope they, is it stopped now? Is it still raining?
No, yesterday was our first day. What day is this? No, Monday afternoon was our first glimmer of sunshine. And so it's been cold, but we've had sunshine for 2 days now, and I'm just soaking it in. We're supposed to have a little more rain coming Thursday and Friday. But I'm soaking the sun in while we've got it and grateful
Mm-hmm.
for it. So, and
Yeah.
scattered
Yeah.
throughout all this stuff, we've seen our kids and our grandbabies. And um,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday morning, I want to share this too. I forgot. Sunday morning, we all came together, or no, Wednesday night. This was the first day it was all happening. Wednesday night, we went to worship. Wait, no, I can't remember
That was
what
a week
day.
ago.
Wednesday night, I think it was. We all went together for Bible class, and we had tornado warning happening at the time. And
Mm.
so David Palman got up. We usually have devotional first. Somebody gives a short devotional, and then we all scatter for our classes. We had a short devotional. Then one of our elders got up, David Palman, and said, "We're in the middle of a tornado warning. This is actually the safest place in this building because we have steel construction and blah 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 blah. We're going to ask everybody to stay in here, and if Neil would come up and lead some songs, lead a few songs
Ooh.
while we wait for the cell to pass over us." And so, um, so anyway, Neil got up and he led "Behold Our God" was the first one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, and then I can't remember what the other one was, but it was another similar.
Didn't
And
you tell me
then
it was like a shelter in
yeah,
the
well, then he switched over to stormy songs and
oh.
was "Master the Tempest is Raging" was one
Mm.
of them, and I think "A Shelter in the Time of Storm" or something like that. And somebody said he should
Yeah.
lead "Till the Storm Passes Over," but when you're in
He
the
would.
middle of it and you're wondering if a tornado is about to suck you up into the sky, those words have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then
That is scary.
when we finished singing, David got back up and he goes, "Actually, another cell is coming through here. So we're all just going to stay here. We're going to have one class in here. Everybody stay together." So
Wow.
it was unusual, but experiencing it together with your brothers and sisters and singing those songs in the middle of something like that,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes it more powerful. So
Oh,
I wouldn't call it enjoyable, but it's just a reminder of what really matters
comforting.
and what we
Mhm.
have in Christ. Yeah, comforting.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad everybody's okay there. I know other people in other places are not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, I learned how to play Farkle.
I wish they would have called it something different. That's the worst
Why?
word. Oh, I hate that word. I don't know. It's a
Is it boorish and immature and
There's just
unrefined?
some words. That one and Fuddruckers.
Yeah.
Like, really? Is that somebody's name or what? How what? But
I don't know. I have no idea.
yes. Well, who
Yeah.
taught you?
Well, it was Joe and Aaron Wells, and
Mm,
it's fun. I look on your face is cracking me up. The funniest part though, and Erin, she might kill me if I say this, but you put the dice in the little cup and you roll it, and I couldn't explain how to play. I really just rolled the dice and let everybody else tell me what I scored and what I should do next. But I kind of understood the gist of it. So she rolls the dice and tosses it on the table, and she said, "Oh, I almost sparkled." And we just all lost it. But,
yeah.
you're tired by that time. So that's why you don't like it.
Yeah.
But I won. I won. Yeah. And
Well,
so, yeah,
congratulations.
yeah,
Bob
I know you'd be
Turner
proud of
taught
me.
us how to play that years ago. And of course, I didn't like the name of it. We play a similar version with 10 dice. And
Hmm.
originally, we just always called it dice.
I like
But
Farkle better.
yeah, so Michael Hyatt knew that I didn't really like that name is just so cringy to me. And so because he knew that, you can imagine him
Hmm.
using every opportunity possible to say that
Oh,
right
yeah.
to my face. So
Yes. I can just see that happening.
yes, you can. So
Well, it was fun. And we played different games. We played bananagrams and phase 10 and all that kind of stuff. But anyway,
mhm.
um, I meant to do this at the beginning and forgot to put it down. It's at the bottom of my notes, but Alice has had some extra struggles lately, and so I won't go into all of it. She's coming up again, gonna have another bone marrow biopsy and the second transplant, but there's just been some complications along the way. So I wanted to ask everybody to continue to pray for her. I know she appreciates it. And there's another thing that's probably dumb for me to even bring it up, but it has bothered me since whatever podcast it was that I was talking about. Um, you're going to tell me that I'm overthinking, but I just wanted to say it anyway. when we were talking about when you share grandchildren with your husband, that you and your husband are the only ones that really know how you feel about that grandchild. You remember me saying something
Hmm.
about that?
Yeah.
But then I was thinking, and I had thought about this earlier, but of course the other set of grandparents. And I love every single one of, except for Frank. If Lori listens, she can tell Frank, except for him. That's Micah's in-laws, and he'll know, he'll laugh. But um, they have that same feeling toward those grandchildren as well.
Mhm.
But what I meant by that is that, like, John and I can look at our grandchildren and see our children in them and have those
Mhm.
memories, and no one else has that except us.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of wanted to make that clarification, which might have been silly, but it was bothering me, so I had to do it.
Yeah, I think it was understood what you were saying. You were talking about it from, I mean, grandparent, every mom and dad relationship with seeing their kids grow up and have grandparents is going to experience
Hmm.
something similar. So
Right.
I think that I just assumed that you were speaking from the perspective of when you assume this role, things change. And now you've got this additional special bond with your husband and seeing
Right.
all these sweet things come to
Hmm.
fruition with the grandbaby, So
Yes.
I think that was
Yeah,
understood,
exactly.
but sweet of
Okay.
you to try and clarify anyway.
Yeah. Well, I know that
All
they
right.
feel the same way.
We probably talked longer than you need to because I'm sure, have you even had dinner yet?
Mm-mm.
No. So I'm sure you're hungry.
Hmm.
So is there anything else you want to share before we wrap this up? Do you have something good for us?
Well, something good for me. I was going to show you two things that I got here in Athens. And one of them is it's an olive wood bowl.
Ooh, that's
You see?
gorgeous. Yeah.
I saw one of these in Germany not too long ago, and it was had bread in it, like
Mm-hmm.
breadsticks and rolls, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a little small, I thought, but at the same time, you don't want to overdo it on the bread. So I don't know what I'll put it in. So I'd have been thinking about bread, but I
Mm-hmm.
bought that here, and then I
Did you
got
get
this
that
little
you got it in Athens.
in Athens, yeah,
Okay.
and then this little olive oil jar, which I
Beautiful.
love.
Those will
I
be
got it
so
at the same
perfect
store.
together.
Yeah, yeah, olive oil and bread. So that's my
Perfect.
something good for me.
That's the what more do you need in life?
Yeah, bread
Olive oil
and
and bread.
olive oil. Hmm.
Both biblical.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, my something good for you is kids. This is called a newspaper. You see that?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
a paper newspaper.
With
Neil and
words
I
on it.
recently subscribed to the Epic Times. And yet another sign of aging. I kind of felt like I missed having a hard copy paper, but this one is a conservative paper. The tagline under there is Truth,
Hmm.
Tradition, Hope. Have you heard of the Epic Times?
I've been saying it wrong. I've heard of it, but I thought it was epoch, so I've been saying it wrong. Epic is
Oh,
probably right. I have no
what is
idea.
what does epoch mean?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I could be saying it wrong. I just assumed it was epic. Um, well, anyway, I first heard about it. I participated in an online homesteading convention, and
Hmm.
the host subscribed to this, and he said, I highly recommend it. It's a way to get your news, but it's very objective. There's not an agenda, blah, 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 blah. So we
Hmm.
looked into it. The paper edition only comes once a week. Ours arrives on Friday, and I love it. It's got the regular news. It has a comic section. It has a mind and body section, a life and tradition section, a home section. It's got recipes in here. It's just really, really enjoyable. But then every day in your email, you also get like the news. So, and the way it's
Hmm.
set up is you'll have the morning brief, which is the headlines, and you can go on and read more of those if you want to. But then it also has a quote, and it's always like a good quote, a lot of times referencing God.
Hmm.
So a section they call a few good things, and it's the little subheadings under that are inspiration. It'll have music. It'll say listen to box blah 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 here. And you can click on it and it takes you to some pretty music. A photo of the day. They have a health section. They have a recipe section in the email, and then they have the games, which I've said this before. I never do games on my phone or anything like that. But Neil did the
Hmm.
whole. They have one right there on the in the email. That's the find something, find the differences. Every day there's a
Hmm.
new photo, and
Yeah.
it's well, it times you. And being the overly competitive person that Neil is, of course, he challenged me. He was like, I found it in 2 minutes and 23 seconds. See if you can do better. Well, so now I do it every day. And they also have they've got several games that you can do. Like they have their version of Wordle and all sort
Hmm.
of kind of stuff too. So anyway,
Awesome.
that's my something good for you because it's a way to get the news, but then some other good stuff too. And so I like that it comes on Friday because that means that we can have a day where we can sit together with our coffee on the weekend
Hmm.
and read the paper like old people and
Well,
laugh
I'm
at the
looking at it,
comics. And
and I'm like, it says unlimited digital access, but there, I'll find it, but I'm not seeing right offhand how to hit the newspaper part because I would love
yeah,
to have a
there's
newspaper
a
to
there's
read.
a place that you go for the print, the subscribing to the print version. So somebody's at the
Somebody
door.
home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it's a delivery. Or my cat.
Okay. Well, we
Who
could
knows?
be. It's a mystery every time.
It's a mystery. It was so good talking to you. I'll be praying for your safety as you travel home, Lord willing,
Uneventful.
sooner rather than later, and unremarkable, uneventful flights. Yes, I didn't
Yes.
mean safety.
Perfect.
I meant unremarkable.
Yes. Both. Both are good.
It was good talking to you. I've missed you. I'm glad you've had
Yes,
this
you too.
experience and gave a wonderful experience to those 48 people, all of you together. I know God's doing wonderful things through Bible passages. So,
I'm looking forward to doing it again with you next year, Lord willing.
yes,
So,
yes. But until
more
next time,
details. Keep looking up.
I love you, friend.
Love you too. Talk to you soon.